The fluorescent hum of the late afternoon pharmacy felt particularly sharp, cutting through the weary silence. Old Manuel, his uniform long replaced by a threadbare coat that offered little warmth against the encroaching chill, stood before the counter, a figure of profound, unspoken dignity despite his plight. His gnarled fingers, steady through years of labor and perhaps combat, now trembled slightly as he counted a meager pile of tarnished coins. Each clink against the polished laminate surface was a heavy metallic sigh, a painful testament to the vast chasm between what he had and what he desperately needed. The pharmacist, a woman named Sarah with gentle eyes that had seen too much, quietly announced the sum for the small bottle of medicine, a lifeline, yet an impossible mountain. Manuel's breath hitched, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor running through him. "Engage. I'll come back later," he whispered, his voice a dry rustle laced with a familiar crushing defeat. His shoulders slumped, an invisible weight pressing down upon him. He didn't know that just a few feet behind him, amidst the rows of brightly colored packaging, stood Michael, a young single father navigating his own quiet struggles. Michael, with a small basket containing toothpaste and children's cough syrup, observed the scene, a knot tightening in his chest. He was about to make a simple, impulsive decision, a quiet act of kindness, that he believed would end right there, at the cash register. But he had no idea, not the slightest inkling, that this single heartfelt gesture would set into motion an astonishing chain of events. He couldn't foresee that it would unravel a forgotten thread of history, forge an unbreakable, almost fated bond, and ultimately present him with a profound, life-altering gift, a folded note he would carry with him forever. This seemingly ordinary pharmacy, on this otherwise unremarkable Tuesday, was about to become the crucible for a destiny neither man could have imagined. Michael felt a surge, not merely of pity, but of a quiet, insistent empathy that resonated deep within his own experiences. He knew that look of defeat, the hollow ache of being unable to provide, the silent agony of dignity eroding. It was a language he understood all too well, echoes of his own anxieties about his daughter's future. Without a word, a silent resolve hardening his posture, he stepped forward, the slight shuffle of his shoes on the linoleum floor the only sound breaking the pharmacy's hushed atmosphere. The pharmacist, Sarah, whose practiced gaze often shielded a deep well of compassion, met his eyes. A quick, almost imperceptible nod passed between them, a shared understanding that transcended words, a silent agreement to honor the unspoken rules of human dignity and assistance. Manuel, startled by the sudden movement behind him, turned slightly, his gaze darting from the observant pharmacist to Michael. His worn face, usually a mask of weary acceptance, registered a brief flash of pride, a reflex to refuse what he perceived as charity. His mouth opened as if to protest, to retreat into his shell of quiet suffering, but the words caught in his throat, lost in the unexpected turn of events. He saw not condescension, but a simple, open kindness in Michael's steady expression, a reflection of shared humanity. The air hung thick with unspoken emotion, a delicate dance between humility, gratitude, and a profound connection forming in that ordinary moment. Michael gently placed his own basket down, ready to bridge the gap, ready to offer solace in the only way he knew how, in the quiet, unassuming currency of a shared moment of grace. He felt a strange pull, an inexplicable connection to this weathered stranger, a feeling that went beyond mere impulse, hinting at something far greater yet to unfold. Michael's credit card, a simple piece of plastic, felt weighted with more than just its financial value in his hand. It felt like a tangible extension of his heart. He handed it to Sarah, the gesture deliberate, quiet, without fanfare or seeking acknowledgement. The pharmacist, a seasoned professional who deeply understood the delicate nuances of human pride and the importance of discretion, processed the payment with practiced efficiency, her movements fluid and almost imperceptible. She didn't speak. didn't draw undue attention, maintaining the quiet sanctity of the moment, allowing Manuel his dignity. Manuel, who had been on the very brink of another whispered refusal, watched, his attention utterly mesmerized by Michael's hand, then by his face. His eyes, usually clouded with the haze of weariness and resignation, seemed to clear, focusing intensely on the quiet transaction unfolding before him. There was a complex choreography of emotions playing out across his weathered features, initial shock slowly giving way to a profound, almost bewildered gratitude, like a long-parched plant finally receiving water. But beneath that, something else flickered, a spark of recognition, a distant memory perhaps, stirring in the depths of his gaze, hinting at a connection far older than this chance encounter. It was a look that lingered, that held a history untold. A silent question Michael couldn't yet decipher. Michael, catching that fleeting, intense glance, felt a curious shiver, an intuition that this was more than just a transaction. It was more than a thank you. It was a silent acknowledgement of a connection that transcended the immediate act of kindness. The payment was complete, but the true exchange, the silent promise hovering in the air between two strangers unknowingly bound by threads of the past and future, had just begun. With the payment successfully completed, the immediate tension in the air dissipated, replaced by a lingering quiet, almost a sense of reverent calm. Michael reached for his basket, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over him, a warm glow of having simply helped, expecting nothing more in return. As the pharmacist, Sarah, returned his credit card, her fingers brushed his, and with a movement almost too subtle to notice, a fleeting sleight of hand born of long practice and keen observation, she slipped a small, folded piece of paper into his palm. Her eyes, usually so composed and professional, held a fleeting spark of urgency, a silent message passing between them, a hint of something deeply significant yet to be understood. It was a gesture meant only for him, carefully executed so that old Manuel, who was now slowly and meticulously gathering his prescription bottle, lost in his own relief and thoughts, would remain completely oblivious. Michael's eyebrows furrowed slightly in confusion. A note? From whom? And why the secrecy, the furtive nature of the exchange? His gaze met Sarah's, a silent question passing between them, to which she offered only a slight knowing tilt of her head, urging him to simply accept it without question, to trust the unspoken importance of the moment. The paper felt thick, substantial, hinting at something more profound than a mere thank you or a mundane receipt. He felt a prickle of intrigue, a ripple disrupting the calm surface of his otherwise predictable day. What kind of message required such discretion? What untold story, what hidden truth lay concealed within those carefully folded layers? He carefully tucked the note into his pocket, its tangible presence a small, intriguing mystery now accompanying him as he prepared to step back into the ordinary rhythm of his life, a rhythm he believed, with quiet certainty, was unchangeable. Stepping out of the sterile, hushed pharmacy into the sharp, golden afternoon sunlight was like crossing a stark threshold back into the relentless, cacophonous demands of the everyday world. Michael blinked, squinting slightly as his eyes adjusted to the sudden brightness, and for a fleeting moment his mind lingered on the small, folded paper now tucked securely and mysteriously in his pocket. He could feel its crisp, intriguing edges through the fabric, a silent question mark pressing subtly against his thigh. What secret did it truly hold? A simple thank you, perhaps, or a hidden plea? His curiosity was undeniably piqued. A small, insistent spark ignited in the back of his mind, promising a pleasant distraction. But before he could truly ponder its contents, before he could give in to the urge to retrieve it, his phone vibrated insistently, a cheerful yet demanding notification from Lily's daycare flashing across the screen. "Pick up in 30 minutes." The digital alert pulled him abruptly and definitively back to the present, to the tangible, undeniable and immediate responsibilities of single fatherhood, a role that consumed every ounce of his energy. The memory of the veteran, the kind pharmacist, and the enigmatic note receded instantly, becoming secondary, almost trivial concerns in the face of his daughter's needs. He adjusted his grip on the grocery basket, his gaze fixed on the urgent text, the clock already ticking. There was barely enough time to get across town, battle the inevitable traffic, and make it before the late fee clock started ticking ominously. The note, with its whispered secrets and untold story, would have to wait. It was just another piece of paper for now, a postponed curiosity in a life already overflowing with urgent, non-negotiable matters. He pushed it deeper into his pocket, its importance momentarily eclipsed, unknowingly delaying a revelation that would rewrite not just his day, but his entire future in ways he could not yet fathom. That evening, the quiet hum of Michael's small apartment felt less like a comforting embrace and more like a heavy, suffocating blanket pressing down on his already burdened spirit. Lily, his bright-eyed, spirited 6-year-old, was blissfully engrossed in a vibrant world of crayon castles and glittery princesses at her tiny kitchen table. Her innocent joy, a stark, heartbreaking contrast to the cold knot of anxiety tightening relentlessly in his chest. Michael stood at the worn kitchen counter, not cooking dinner, but performing a grim ritual, sifting through a stack of stark white envelopes that felt like harbingers of doom. His fingers, usually so capable and strong, now felt clumsy and leaden as he sorted through overdue utility bills and, chillingly, a final eviction notice that seemed to scream its urgency. The electric bill, the gas bill, the looming threat of rent he couldn't possibly meet. Each flimsy paper represented a battle he was fighting alone, a tide he was desperately trying to hold back. He traced the stark red lettering on one notice, his jaw tight, a muscle twitching uncontrollably. It wasn't just about him anymore, if it ever truly was. It was about Lily, about keeping a stable roof over her precious head, about providing the secure, predictable life she so profoundly deserved. He'd given so freely that afternoon, an act of pure, selfless generosity that felt miles away. Yet here he was, staring down the barrel of his own precarious existence, a grim and desperate reality. The irony was a bitter, metallic taste in his mouth, a cruel joke played by fate. He caught sight of his reflection in the dark, unyielding window, a tired man, lines etched around his eyes that weren't there a year ago, shoulders hunched. The burden of responsibility weighed heavily, a constant, silent companion, a crushing weight that threatened to buckle him. He longed for a moment of respite, a clear solution, anything to lift this crushing, relentless pressure. But the answers remained elusive, hidden just beyond his grasp, much like the untold story in the note still nestled, forgotten and patiently waiting, in his coat pocket. Hours later, the apartment finally surrendered to the quiet, hushed rhythm of night, a fragile peace descending. Michael sat wearily on the edge of Lily's small bed, the soft, ethereal glow of her unicorn nightlight casting fantastical, comforting shadows on the wall, transforming her room into a sanctuary. He gently adjusted her blanket, his hand brushing against the worn, familiar fabric of his trousers. That's when he felt it, the crumpled, forgotten note, a small, tangible anomaly in the landscape of his everyday worries, a foreign object in a world of familiar anxieties. A flicker of memory surfaced from the depths of his subconscious. The gaunt veteran, the bustling pharmacy, the pharmacist's knowing, urgent glance. Curiosity, a gentle, insistent whisper against the roar of his financial anxieties, returned, momentarily eclipsing his distress. He almost reached for it, almost pulled it out right then and there, eager to unravel its mystery. But Lily stirred slightly, a soft, sleepy sigh escaping her lips as she snuggled deeper into her pillow, her small hand instinctively reaching for his. The moment passed, priorities shifting instantly. His immediate paramount concern was the gentle assurance of her slumber, the protection of her innocent peace from the harsh realities that plagued him. He leaned down, placing a soft, lingering kiss on her forehead. The weight of his profound love for her, both an immense comfort and a renewed, almost unbearable pressure. The note, a silent promise of an unknown story, a potential diversion from his burdens, remained tucked away, its secret still closely guarded, patiently awaiting its moment. He would get to it, he promised himself, when the house was truly quiet, when his mind wasn't reeling from the endless, relentless demands of keeping his small family afloat. He retreated to the living room. The mystery of the note now an insistent, yet patiently waiting undercurrent to his restless, troubled thoughts, a small beacon in the encroaching darkness. The next morning brought no reprieve, only another heavier layer of pressure that seemed to cling to the air like the lingering chill of night. The first rays of sun, usually a welcome sight promising new beginnings, felt harsh and unforgiving as they streamed through the kitchen window, mocking his despair. Michael sat heavily at the kitchen table, the half-eaten remains of Lily's cereal bowl, a stark reminder of the fleeting peace of breakfast. In his hand, he clutched a brightly colored flyer, an enthusiastic announcement for Lily's upcoming school field trip to the local Natural History Museum. Lily had been talking about it for weeks, her innocent eyes sparkling with pure anticipation, her small voice buzzing with excitement about dinosaurs and ancient artifacts. But beneath the cheerful graphics and glowing descriptions, a small, bolded line stating the modest cost felt like a personal accusation. It wasn't a huge sum for many families, but for Michael, staring at the mounting pile of bills, the eviction notice still burning in his mind, it felt like a monumental, insurmountable obstacle. A wave of suffocating shame and profound frustration washed over him, hot and bitter. How could he possibly tell Lily, his joyful, trusting daughter, that he couldn't afford this small joy, this essential shared experience that all her friends would undoubtedly partake in? This wasn't just a private worry, this was his felt public humiliation, a deeply personal failure to provide, made all the more painful by the vivid image of his daughter's innocent, expectant face. He closed his eyes, running a weary, trembling hand through his hair, the crushing weight of his financial struggles pressing down on him, suffocating his hope. He wanted desperately to be the hero for his child, to give her everything she dreamed of, but sometimes even the smallest, most basic things felt impossibly, cruelly out of reach. The memory of the veteran, his own quiet struggle, flashed through Michael's mind, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of human hardship, making his own burden feel both heavier and yet, strangely, more relatable in its universal pain. The bright, hopeful colors of Lily's drawing, abandoned on the table, now felt like a cruel, vibrant mockery of his grim, grey reality. The crushing weight of the field trip flyer, of all his unmet obligations, felt immense, pressing down on him like a physical burden. Michael slowly pushed it aside with a weary hand, the bright colors of the paper now mocking his inner turmoil with their false cheer. His gaze, weary and unfocused, drifted aimlessly across the small, cluttered kitchen, landing finally on his coat, still draped carelessly over a kitchen chair from the day before, a silent witness to his struggles. And then, like a small, unexpected flicker in the darkness, he remembered. The note, tucked into its pocket, a forgotten secret, a tiny, unexplored possibility. In that moment of overwhelming, relentless stress, of feeling utterly trapped and suffocated by his dire circumstances, the idea of an unknown story, a diversion from his own pressing, inescapable reality, held an unexpected and powerful allure. A glimmer of desperate curiosity, a tiny seed of hope, sparked weakly within him. Perhaps it was a simple thank you, a kind word that might offer a momentary balm to his bruised, aching spirit, a fleeting moment of connection. Or perhaps it was a complaint, a misunderstanding, something that would only add to his already crushing burdens. Whatever it was, it felt like an escape, a brief, much-needed journey into someone else's world, away from his own. With a sigh that carried the exhaustion of 1,000 silent battles, a deep, guttural sound of resignation, he slowly reached for the coat. His movements were imbued with a heavy sense of defeat, yet also a subtle, almost unconscious hope, a desperate yearning for something, anything to change. He needed something, anything, to shift his focus, to pull him away from the precipice of despair that loomed so large. The small, folded paper suddenly seemed less like a trivial mystery and more like a potential lifeline, a tangible link to a world beyond his immediate suffocating troubles, holding a fragile promise of something, anything different, a whisper of a possibility he dared not fully embrace. With a deep, cleansing breath, Michael finally allowed himself to retrieve the note, pulling it gently from the confines of his coat pocket. It felt surprisingly substantial in his hand, a small rectangle of aged paper, slightly creased and softened from its time tucked away. He carried it carefully to the kitchen table, the morning light from the window now casting a gentle, almost reverent glow on the worn surface, illuminating the slightly yellowed paper as he meticulously began to unfold it. The anticipation was a quiet, insistent thrum beneath his skin, a welcome and powerful distraction from the clamor of his own persistent worries, a pause in the relentless storm of his life. As the paper slowly yielded, revealing the meticulously penned words, he immediately noticed the handwriting was distinctly old-fashioned, the elegant loops and flourishes speaking of a bygone era, a different time. There was also a slight, almost imperceptible tremor in some of the strokes, hinting at the veteran's advanced age, or perhaps his frail health, adding a poignant touch. His eyes, tired but now sharply focused and eager, began to scan the first few lines, absorbing each word. It wasn't a simple thank you note, that much was immediately and strikingly clear. The initial words spoke of duty and service, phrases that instantly conjured images of distant, harrowing battlefields and forgotten heroes, stirring a vague, unsettling recognition. A frown of intense concentration creased his brow as he processed the unexpected depth. This was profoundly more than he had expected, something deeper, more significant, almost historical. The text hinted at a profound personal history, a narrative steeped in the weight of immense experience and sacrifice. He felt a distinct shift, a tingling sensation of being slowly but irrevocably drawn into a story far larger and more intricate than his own, a story that was slowly, meticulously beginning to reveal its first, intriguing layers, promising a profound and unexpected connection to a world he barely knew existed. Michael's breath hitched, caught painfully in his throat, as his eyes devoured the words, each one landing like a physical blow, yet filled with an astonishing truth. The veteran, Manuel, didn't just thank him for the small act of kindness. He revealed in carefully chosen words that he had recognized Michael's surname. Michael, the old-fashioned script read, "I knew a miller once, a man who gave me back my life in the steaming jungles of Vietnam nearly 50 long years ago. A man of quiet courage, resolute and selfless, just like you." The air in the small kitchen suddenly felt thin, charged with an invisible, almost spiritual energy, humming with the weight of destiny. Michael's mind reeled, struggling to comprehend the incredible coincidence, the profound connection. His grandfather, Arthur Miller, had indeed served in Vietnam, a fact he knew but rarely dwelt upon. He remembered fragmented stories from his childhood, whispered tales of bravery and sacrifice, of men in uniform and distant, dangerous lands, tales that had always felt distant, almost mythical, part of a forgotten past. But now, in this unassuming kitchen, they were being pulled violently into the present, connected intimately to this very moment, to this unexpected man. Manuel's careful script detailed a harrowing ambush, a desperate, bloody firefight, and how Arthur, wounded himself and facing impossible odds, had selflessly dragged Manuel to safety under heavy enemy fire. He wrote of a sacred promise made in the chaos and terror, a vow to never forget the man who saved him. Michael felt a jolt, a profound, almost spiritual tremor radiating through his entire being. It wasn't just a veteran, a random act of kindness in a pharmacy. This was destiny, a swirling, powerful vortex of past and present colliding with a force he couldn't deny. The kindness he showed was not just to a stranger, but to a man whose life was irrevocably intertwined with his own family's legacy, a debt spanning generations. A single tear, unbidden and overwhelming, welled in his eye, blurring the words, making the already incredible revelation feel even more surreal, deeply personal and powerfully overwhelming, as if the universe itself was speaking directly to him. The note continued, each subsequent word a hammer blow of revelation, deepening the astonishing connection. Manuel described how, after the war's brutal end, he had dedicated years, tireless and unwavering, to trying to find Arthur Miller, driven by an unshakable sense of profound obligation and overwhelming gratitude. He spoke eloquently of the deep, unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of battle, a brotherhood that transcended mere rank or circumstance, a shared trauma and triumph that bound them forever. "Your grandfather taught me what it truly meant to live," Manuel had written with a poignant sincerity. "He taught me the very essence of hope when all I saw, all I felt, was crushing despair." Manuel then explained that he had recognized Michael not just by his distinctive surname, but by something far deeper and more uncanny. The precise shape of his eyes, the resolute set of his jaw, and most strikingly, the quiet, unassuming kindness in his demeanor that was uncannily similar, an exact echo of Arthur's. "I've watched you for a while, young man," the note confessed, a chilling yet comforting admission. From a distance, a silent observer. "When I saw you step forward today in that pharmacy, it was like seeing a ghost, a living, breathing echo of the man who saved my life. It was fate, Michael, a perfect circle finally closing after half a century." Michael's hand trembled uncontrollably, the aged paper rustling softly with the movement, a fragile testament to the weight of its words. The profound notion that he had been observed, that his impulsive act of kindness was not random but a culmination of a long-held promise, a sacred debt, sent shivers cascading down his spine. It was a cosmic convergence, a profound validation of the unseen threads that connect human lives across generations, a tapestry woven by unseen hands. The simple act of paying for medicine had become an unexpected, miraculous bridge to a forgotten legacy, a powerful testament to the enduring, unbreakable power of a promise made under the most dire and desperate circumstances. He realized with a new and overwhelming clarity the true depth of the veteran's silent watch and the sacred lifelong debt that Manuel carried, not just for his physical life, but for the profound gift of hope and purpose Arthur had given him so long ago. Michael could barely see through the hot, stinging tears that now streamed unbidden and relentlessly down his face. A tidal wave of profound, complex emotion washed over him. A deep, aching grief for the grandfather he had loved and lost, immense, almost boundless gratitude for Manuel's enduring spirit and incredible resilience, and an overwhelming sense of wonder at the intricate, mysterious dance of fate that had brought them to this moment. He carefully adjusted the note, his eyes blurring with emotion as he reached the final pivotal paragraphs. And that's where the true, astonishing, and utterly life-altering revelation lay, etched in Manuel's trembling script. Manuel, despite his appearance as a homeless veteran, had in fact inherited a small, thriving carpentry shop from his own father, a business he'd worked in for decades before personal hardship and illness had caused him to fall ill and temporarily lose his way. "I've been slowly but steadily recovering," the note explained with quiet dignity, "and I'm ready to rebuild this legacy, to bring it back to life. But my body is old, Michael, and my heart longs for a kindred spirit, a successor with a pure heart and capable hands." Manuel, in a staggering, breathtaking act of reciprocal kindness, offered Michael not charity, but a full partnership, a chance to reclaim his destiny. He wrote that he had spent years saving, building, and patiently waiting for the right moment, for the right person, a man whose spirit echoed Arthur's. "Your grandfather was a man who built things, Michael, not just sturdy structures, but hope, integrity, and a future. I see that same builder's spirit, that same unwavering light in your eyes." He offered Michael not a handout, but a profound opportunity to learn the intricate trade, to work diligently alongside him, and eventually to take over the carpentry shop entirely, to make it his own, a thriving legacy. It was a promise of purpose, of stability, of a secure and fulfilling future he could only dream of amidst his despair. The humility, the immense generosity, and the sheer faith embedded in the offer left Michael utterly speechless, trembling uncontrollably, his entire world utterly transformed in the space of a few profoundly handwritten lines. It was a debt repaid, not in fleeting coins, but in the priceless currency of a second chance, a legacy reborn, a future meticulously crafted from the threads of the past. The note, no longer just a mere piece of paper, felt like a sacred ancient scroll in Michael's trembling, reverent hands, imbued with an almost mystical power. It included a contact number, a key to a humble but undeniably established workshop address nestled on the quiet outskirts of town, and a final, heartfelt plea for Michael to consider this extraordinary proposition. "A kindness repaid is not just a transaction," Manuel had concluded, his words resonating deeply. "It is a new beginning for two souls, a chance to mend what was broken, to build anew." Michael, overwhelmed by the sheer, improbable magnitude of this unexpected turn of fate, stumbled in a daze towards Lily's bedroom. He gently lowered himself, kneeling by her bed, the soft, comforting glow of the nightlight illuminating his tear-streaked face, now alight with a dawning revelation. He looked at his sleeping daughter, her small, innocent form nestled peacefully, utterly oblivious, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he saw not just his responsibility, his endless struggles, but a boundless, hopeful future stretching brightly before them. The suffocating despair that had clung to him so tightly for so long began to dissipate like morning mist, replaced by a surge of exhilarating, almost terrifying possibility. This wasn't charity. This was a profound testament to the ripple effect of genuine human connection, a karmic circle closing across generations, a cosmic debt repaid in full. He clutched the note to his chest, its crisp edges pressing reassuringly into his skin, a tangible symbol of a destiny he had unknowingly unlocked with a simple act of compassion. It was more than a job offer, more than a business proposition. It was a legacy, a chance to not only escape his own personal struggles, but to build something meaningful, enduring, and beautiful for Lily, something that honored the memory of his heroic grandfather and the enduring, unbreakable spirit of Manuel. His heart swelled with an emotion he couldn't quite name, a powerful, intoxicating mix of awe, boundless gratitude, and fierce, burning, renewed purpose. The path ahead was undeniably uncertain, fraught with challenges, but for the very first time in years, it was gloriously, undeniably filled with light and boundless hope. Months melted seamlessly into a vibrant new season, and with it, a glorious new life blossomed for both Michael and Manuel, a testament to shared dreams. The humble carpentry workshop, once quiet and imbued with a melancholic solitude, now buzzed with the rhythmic, energetic hum of saws, the cheerful clang of hammers and the rich, comforting scent of freshly cut wood filling the air. Michael, no longer burdened by the crushing, invisible weight of anxiety and financial strain, moved with a newfound purpose and a quiet, confident grace, his hands skilled and sure as he worked tirelessly alongside a revitalized, radiant Manuel. The elderly veteran, now healthier and his face often creased with a genuine, contented smile, shared not just his profound stories of the past, but also his invaluable wisdom of the craft, his eyes gleaming with the deep satisfaction of a life's promise, finally, beautifully fulfilled. Lily, Michael's bright-eyed daughter, often visited, her joyful laughter echoing through the bustling workshop as she played safely and happily amid soft piles of fragrant sawdust and neatly stacked timber, a pure picture of happy innocence and burgeoning potential. Michael would often pause his work, his gaze lingering on her, a profound sense of gratitude washing over him, a warmth spreading through his chest. This wasn't just a business, he realized. It was a family, a precious legacy reborn from a simple, selfless act of kindness, a powerful connection forged across generations by unseen hands. He often thought of that pivotal moment in the pharmacy, the silent understanding exchange, the crumpled note that had appeared so unassuming, yet had ultimately changed absolutely everything. It was a powerful, enduring reminder that every small, seemingly insignificant act of compassion holds the boundless potential to unlock extraordinary destinies, to weave intricate, beautiful tapestries of human connection and hope. What an incredible, fated journey they had shared, born from a single, quiet moment of profound empathy. If this heartwarming story touched your heart as deeply as it did ours, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales of kindness, unexpected fate, and the enduring power of human connection. Your invaluable support helps us share these vital stories with the world, bringing light and hope to many.